quick video response to Mr. HerrIQ on genetic engineering, which I promised you about 7 days ago, which in YouTube time is about a year. So sorry about that, I've been kind of busy. I should probably say right off the bat, I'm not pro-racial nationalism. I'm not against it either. If a bunch of white people want to get some land somewhere and exercise freedom of association, okay. Or black people want to do that, whatever. I wouldn't be against it. I wouldn't join them, personally, it's not my bag. But it sure would be interesting to see what would happen and how it would play out. Briefly, you mentioned in your video chromosome 7 and eliminating the ability to distinguish between racial differences. Yeah, I wouldn't be in favour of that. I'm not trying to get anywhere here. When I say genetic engineering is going to kill racial nationalism, I'm just making an observation as I see it. This is the way I think it's going to play out. I have no aims or political aspirations, or I don't care. I just think this is what's going to happen. Okay, so let's see. I'll start with your straightforward questions first. You asked how much would it cost, how many could afford it, and where. Well, it would be like anything, I guess. Initially it would be very expensive, so Western middle classes would have access, but after some time, economies of scale, it would become cheaper. That's the way it goes, right? Colour television sets, when they first came out, I think 1960s, they cost a lot. Few people could afford them. Now today, 50 years later, everyone has them. I was in some village in Thailand. People were living in such pitiful homes that you could see through the gaps in the walls. And what did I see when I looked through those gaps? They had a colour television set. Economies of scale, yeah? Most things work out like that. So in 100 years, I'd be thinking everyone could have it done. World over, but pretty much. Maybe there'd be like 10% that couldn't. Maybe there would be a societal split for a while, you know, kind of global societal split, when the West was having it done and poorer nations couldn't. But market forces being what they are, from the first introduction, I would have thought 60, 80 years and everyone would have it. Yeah. Okay, next question. Why would you assume many people would want to change the phenotype? That's easy, right? I mean, the advantages, obviously. Avoid inherited diseases and conditions, good teeth, better immune system. I don't know what it's like where you live, but over here in the UK, parents do everything they can for their children. They move home to get them into a good state school. They pay for private education if they can afford it. They spend a fortune on toys and vitamins and dentist visits and so on. Yeah. If parents can give an advantage to their children, they will. Guaranteed. Yeah. And once a few do it, the rest will follow, because they don't want their kids to be left behind. So parents are going to do it for the advantages that it will give their children, and the state will encourage it because a reduction in disease reduces welfare costs. And there was a point I didn't think of before, and you made the point yourself in your video. GDP is linked to IQ, somewhat. Yeah, I think there were some important caveats there, but generally higher IQ equals higher national income. So it's not only the parents that are going to want this, it's the state too. Everyone wants it. The parents want it, the state wants it, so it's going to happen. And it'll start with health-oriented changes, but it won't stop there. People will then move into cosmetic changes. They won't just want healthy teeth, they'll want healthy and straight teeth. They won't want a healthy body, they'll want a sports optimized body. Yeah? So I think the pressures for it to happen is it's coming. It's not like there's parents want it and the state doesn't, or something like that. Everyone, I can't see anyone who would say no to it. Okay, right, and now you said something after that in your video. I'm not sure if I've understood you. I think you're saying there would be a split in that some countries would get it first and some later on. So for a while there would be a bunch of people who didn't have access to genetic modifications. Well, yeah, I agree, that's true. I don't know why that's a problem. Remember, it's not going to be the sudden creation of a super race. First it will be disease prevention, then a little more tinkering, maybe people's height, their metabolism, little tweaks, gradually building up to bigger changes. And all of these will take time to develop and implement. I'm imagining it as a kind of cascade. At the point where the more advanced countries are rolling out high spec trait changes, the poorer countries are still on disease prevention changes, but they're going to be catching up quickly and getting it as well, getting the more advanced changes as well. Yeah, but I don't see the problem really. Maybe I didn't quite get your point on that, or maybe you're imagining that it would happen differently. I mean, I can't tell the future any better than anyone else. Okay. Right, you asked, why would a Swedish couple want a Japanese child? Because that would be just like adopting. Well, I think you're right. For the most part, I would have thought people would be essentially sticking to their own code and just tweaking it a bit, making better versions of themselves, essentially. At least that would be initially. I think later over time, people will become more ambitious. I guess one of the points I was trying to make in that last video was, as we tinker and hack the code, people's perception will change. They'll stop looking at things from a phenotypic point of view and start looking at things from a genotypic point of view. In other words, they'll see the body as the expressed genotype. They'll see it as a piece of malleable code. That change would be a fundamental shift in perspective. That's really what I was trying to get across. Genetic engineering will cause us to think of ourselves in a fundamentally different way. So in your video I noticed you said, why would I have a Japanese child versus my child? What is your child? What makes it your child? How much of the code do we need to modify before people start to question what that means, my child? Like you say, people won't go for wholesale different genomes like a pure Japanese. Not at first, because it would be like adopting. But at some point they might. If everyone's genes get so mixed that there was no pure Japanese around anymore at all, do you see what I'm saying? People might find that desirable again at some point in the future. We could call it a vintage genome. It's actually a good argument against race mixing. We'll never know what a pure Aborigine or some Polynesian tribe genome was if we race mix it away before we catalogue it. Once it's gone, right? But yeah, maybe in 300 years it'll be like, I could see it being like a pick and mix store. Everyone will be so mixed up genetically. Someone may very well want a pure Japanese child.